So we got to talk about Sam Harris. Got a lot of things to say about him. I did a video about him that just recently, and it aged like fine wine, largely because what I said about him was 100% accurate. And he actually confirms this in this podcast that I'm going to be leaving a link in the description to. He states that he just didn't understand people. He just doesn't understand the appeal for Trump, why people have this affinity for the president. And I was right. I was 100% right. Although I will admit that I kind of have contradictory thoughts, contradictory beliefs. That they come out in the video. For example, I stated like, oh well, we're gonna go into this thing. We're gonna be charitable. I can understand how it's difficult for someone like Sam to understand and somebody like Bin Laden more so than Trump. But then later on, I'm just like, oh, you know what? He's too smart. He's too brilliant. He should know better. And I'm wagging my finger. Like it happens. I'm a human being. I have contradictory thoughts all the time about everything. And also like I treat these videos kind of like a conversation, like I'm having a very unique dialogue with somebody. And the way to navigate through very complex thoughts in your mind and to kind of sort them out is by having conversations, is by speaking, physically speaking. So sometimes things like that happen, and I do apologize if I cause any confusion. I certainly don't mean to. But here I am. Nonetheless, the video ended up aging like fine wine. So soon, by the way. It was very. I just had this big smile on my face when he just conceded to the fact that he just doesn't get it. He just doesn't understand people, and that he's been genuinely struggling. And it's just really bizarre. Like I believe him, but it's just bizarre to hear that from somebody who's so smart and brilliant like Sam Harris. Well, nonetheless, he published this podcast. From published his 8-minute podcast on his Making Sense website, or the samharris.org website. Again, link in the description, so you can see that I'm not misrepresenting him or taking words out of context or anything like that. I don't have to do that, by the way. I don't have to take people's words out of context. I don't got to put words in people's mouth. I don't got to misdirect, misrepresent, or any of that nonsense. I'm a pretty honest dude, and I'm pretty fucking good at this. I'm never gonna lose a debate, that's for sure. So so again, like somebody like the Amazing Atheist, like I'm not afraid of somebody like him. I'm not afraid of the Yankee Marshal. I'll take anybody on, even Sam Harris. I'd love to debate and have a conversation with Sam Harris about politics. It's just like let's talk about. I'm getting too ahead of myself. Let's talk about what he gets wrong in this video. Well, for one, he talks about the president not having courage. He lacks courage. It's like, okay, that's funny coming from the guy who cowardly brings on people onto his podcast to take cheap shots at other content creators like Jared Taylor, and then admitting later on that he's afraid to have Jared Taylor on his podcast. He's afraid to have a dialogue with Jared Taylor, but he'll gladly have people on to make fun of him and completely shit all over American Renaissance. Very funny to hear Sam Harris call someone else or to accuse someone else of lacking courage. I think the president is incredibly courageous. This is somebody who literally walked into North Korea without groups of without an army, without tanks and stuff. He just walks into North Korea and he exchanges pleasant words with Kim Jong Un. President Trump. This is a man who's got political courage on display all the time. This is somebody who's bringing about peace in the Middle East. It's a lot easier to score cheap political points and to continue a violent campaign against the Muslim people of the Middle East. He refuses to do that. And when I remember the first time that some bizarre incident occurred and some missiles had to get fired, and there was an article that endorsed this behavior. They said, "Oh, is this the first time Trump actually looks presidential?" This is, they want to reward that behavior because, the fake news industry runs cover and interference, and they do the bidding for the military industrial complex. But that's besides the point. What else did he get wrong in this? He gets wrong. Partly he got wrong. It's kind of half and half. The people's motivations or people's reasons as to, how do I put this? He states that President Trump creates a safe space because Trump, he's got these glaring character defects. He's clearly flawed as a human being. And people love Trump, not despite his flaws, but because of them. That is partly true. But then he, in my opinion, falsely states that, he creates a safe space for other people who have very similar character defects. similar character flaws. People who are just deeply flawed, just terrible, horrible people that should be totally condemned because of their nastiness or whatever. Trump creates a safe space for terrible behavior, let's say. I disagree. I don't think anybody is watching Trump, or at least the overwhelming majority of Americans who support him. They're not looking to Trump to emulate his behavior. We're looking to Trump to lead us out of very dark times. Very 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 horrible, uncertain the times in America. Um, I mean, Sam Harris calls him Fat Jesus. He calls him all these things, and he states that he's basically, uh, giving people he kind of gives people permission to be as awful and as unpleasant as himself. And this is just the way that I'm reading into this is that he's finding ways to take cheap shots at the president and also take cheap shots at his supporters, because a lot of Trump supporters have been goofing on Sam Harris, and rightfully so. He absolutely deserves it. I mean, this is somebody who completely trashes Trump for his behavior, but Sam, I mean, is Sam Harris really one to be throwing stones in this glass house? I mean, his language is so hyperbolic. This is somebody who's saying that President Trump is literally more reprehensible than a literal terrorist. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. That's absolutely insane to me. Like, I'm still blown away that he's ever said that. But what he does get right is that people are flocking to his arms because of his character flaws. And he also states that President Trump does not judge his supporters, his fans, etc., etc. He absolutely doesn't. He understands that you can't do that if you want people to buy what you're selling. What is President Trump selling us? He's going to build us the wall, so he's going to keep us safe. He's going to jobs. We're going to be productive again. We're going to be busy. We're going to be making more money. That's what he's selling us. Now, when you sell a product, this is business 101. When you sell a product, what you don't ever want to do, this is business 101. You don't want to insult your customers. You don't want to insult your clients. The Democrats don't understand this, which is why people like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden say we're dregs of society, we're chumps, we're ugly, we're deplorable. People like Don Lemon, Jimmy Kimmel, and all these other pedophiles in Hollywood, they're just like, oh, well, they're, what do they say? They say we're cultists, we're drug addicts, we're stupid sheeps, all this other nonsense. And stuff like that drives us into the arm of President Trump. No doubt. No doubt whatsoever. Another interesting thing about another claim that he made was, he was contrasting Trump's, refusal to judge the American people, be harsh and admonish certain Americans, etc., etc. And he contrasts Trump's overall love for the American people to what the left has to offer. So people like Sam Harris are like, why are all these Americans flocking to Trump when he's, this, and that? And it's because the left has a serious problem with selling what they have to offer. Well, what do they have to offer? You go to the left, you test out what they got. They're going to make you bend the knee. They're going to tell you to kiss the ass of certain Americans. They're going to tell you to tear down those statues and shut your fucking mouth and continue to bend that knee, bigot. They're going to rewrite history books. They're going to change the texture of this country because it's offensive to certain types of Americans or certain types of people that are residing here illegally. They're going, because it's offensive, they're going to bombard your family, your children, with disgusting propaganda disguised as cinema, disguised as art, and they're going to tell you to fucking take it. They're going to offer us a world where we're not going to have freedom of speech. If we have the wrong beliefs, if we have the wrong ideas, they're going to come after us. They're going to fire us from our jobs. Trump wants to give us jobs. Plain and simple, man. Plain and simple. I mean, this is not obvious. I mean, this is obvious to somebody like me who understands people. But apparently, Sam Harris just had this epiphany. He just barely had this epiphany, and I find it very fascinating. Another thing that I found very fascinating in this was, he's calling him, he called him Fat Jesus. He, I'm gonna eat as many hamburgers as I want, Jesus. Grab him by the pussy, Jesus. And then go back to your shithole country, Jesus. Go back to your shithole country. President Trump was accused of saying that. He was accused of saying, "Oh, why don't they just go back to their shithole countries," or something to that effect. He had some private meeting with all these politicians, and some anonymous source leaked it. Of course, Trump denies this. There's no evidence that any of this occurred whatsoever. But of course, the fake news industry runs wild with it. The pedophiles and the pedophile celebrities in Hollywood, they run wild with it. The political activists run wild with it. They talk about how offensive and disgusting the president is, and there's no evidence for this whatsoever. And I think it's hilarious that a militant atheist like Sam Harris, somebody who champions skepticism, who puts reason and evidence and open inquiry above anything else to help us answer very difficult questions, to help us navigate through difficult situations. Because it's important. Like, here's the thing. I forgot. I think it was Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens. They said extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. It could have been Sam Harris who said that himself. And it's like we always got to remain skeptical of people making extraordinary claims for themselves. They have to be able to back these claims up with tangible, concrete evidence. And here Sam Harris is repeating in my estimation, appears to be propaganda from the legacy media to make him look out to be like something he's not, or which is a racist. And here he is repeating this line, this headline from a popular news publisher. It's funny how that works. It's like we're going to be skeptical of everything except for the fake news industry, which has reliably been dishonest, which has reliably been publishing bullshit for who knows how long. Stick, Sex, and Hammer's right. This is yellow journalism. Sam Harris doesn't see it that way. He's got a little intellectual boner for this. For these mega corporations that publish the propaganda for the most part, more so than they publish current events and things going on in the world, things that will actually help the American people. But whatever. Another thing that I always found interesting as well, that was brought up in this short podcast, this 8-minute long podcast, was his concern for America's standing in the world. I hear this a lot from other people. It's like, oh, well, our place in the world is being diminished because Trump is an idiot. The orange man is out of control and he's so stupid and he makes the country look stupid. What will people think? What will people around the world think of America? So what people like Sam Harris don't understand. Americans do not give a fuck what anyone thinks about the country. I'm a pretty brilliant worldly guy, and I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about the country. I unapologetically love my country, and so does the president, and that resonates with me. Plain and simple. It's like, what are the Congolese saying about this disgusting comment that Trump said? How will we ever live with ourselves because of these negative opinions that are held by, I don't know, people from New Zealand? Oh no, what is this? The Bulgarians have a hate boner for Trump's nonstop tweeting? Oh, the humanity. Who fucking cares, dude? See, you're quite privileged and quite fortunate in life when your concerns involve the opinions of people literally on another continent. People in America don't give a fuck. Sam Harris does, largely because he's not like he's an American, sure, but he's not like a traditional American. This is a worldly, overly educated guy. Nothing wrong with that, by the way. Nothing wrong with being a genius and a brain scientist like himself. But this is a guy who's able to retreat off and meditate in some fucking mountain for months at a time. Most Americans don't have that luxury. We got to worry about our families. We got to worry about people crossing the border and flooding the nation, replacing Americans, displacing us, devaluing our wages, or depressing our wages. I apologize. Sam Harris doesn't have to worry about that. Sam Harris is literally irreplaceable. There can only be one Sam Harris. But but traditional Americans, regular Americans, they gotta, construction workers, people who work in kitchens, people who are, in the service industry, hospitality, they do domestic work, construction, trade work. These people, their wages are being depressed. They have to compete with illegal labor in some locations throughout the United States. Sam Harris will never have to worry about that. So he'll never understand these things. He's got an audience that's global, so he's never going to be a nationalist. He's always going to be a globalist, and he's not the only one that does this or is guilty of this. A lot of celebrities, all of rappers, rock stars, rap stars, pop stars, and actors, actresses, etc., etc. All these people, you're never going to see them criticizing any specific group or any specific ideology, because people from all over the world enjoy their work and they don't want to lose out on any of that money. So Sam Harris is going to have the stupid beliefs that he has, or the cringy beliefs that he has, and and he's gonna try to. And it seems like it's almost like a self-preservation type thing. I don't. Maybe I'm being unfair to him right now. I can admit maybe I'm not being totally fair, but he appears to be. Trying to appeal to a very broad audience. He's trying to pretend to be like this quasi-centrist in this move. At least with this podcast, that's what I get that sense. That's what I'm getting from this, honestly. So, yeah, it's unfortunate that Sam Harris is continuing to go down this path of refusing to get treatment for his stage 4 Trump derangement syndrome. But to each his own. I can't wait. I can't wait for the election. I'm going to be voting tomorrow. I'm going to skateboard down to the polls. It's going to be a really great time. And to everybody out there, to all the good traditional Americans, regardless if you're independent or you're part of the Democratic Party, the Green Party, whatever, vote for Trump. Vote for Trump, because the tears, the liberal tears will be so juicy, and all the salt gains, all the salt merchants, we're gonna be out there, man, collecting all the salt from the super salty people, and it's gonna be one for the books, man. Tomorrow the world is gonna change, and I hope to be a part of that change. I hope to be one of the people that is responsible for that change. I'm gonna be voting for the president of the United States. I love my president. I support my president. I don't care what character flaws he has. I didn't vote for him because I think he's perfect, because he's got the right personality. I voted for him because he appears to be a leader. He's unapologetic about being an American. He's unapologetic about America, and I don't think we need to apologize or make any drastic changes to appease these globalist cocksuckers like Sam Harris. I don't give a fuck. It's like, one last thing, funny part. He's just like, oh well, people like me, see through this. We're not, taken by Trumpism. And it's like, yeah, because it's not for you. It's not for you. You're not a traditional American. You're not the everyman. You're, I don't want to say above everybody, but you're on a whole different level, dude. You got, raking in millions, and you're traveling all over the world. You're very mobile. You're not a salt of the earth dude. He'll never understand. He'll never understand the plight of traditional Americans. He'll never understand the struggle of traditional American families, especially those whose heritage runs all the way back to the infancy of this nation. People, who descended from Americans that carved this nation out of nothing. Sam Harris is never going to understand any of that. Um, which is fine. It's okay to be different. It's okay not to know things, but the cheap jabs at the American people, the cheap jabs at the President of the United States. We're going to remember that, Sam. Go fuck yourself.